And welcome to the Garage Happy Hour. My gosh, it's great to see you all back. It's certainly been a tough 24 hours for those of you watching live for sports fans in St. Louis. And I just want to say this. I know that Bob Plager, our dear friend, I woke up this morning so sad, knowing that, that it was not a nightmare, that it did happen. And I felt so sad this morning. And then I thought, Bob, our great friend, would want us to celebrate his life and have a good time, and it's hard. But listening to the radio, a lot of different radio stations and TV stations, and reading things and going on social media, you all have been unbelievable in supporting the family, the Blues family, and remembering our dear friend Bob Plager. So I just wanted to start with that. I really appreciate St. Louis sports fans. It's just amazing what you're all about, and he was incredible and was one of us. I mean, he loved mixing in with the fans and loved being part of this sports scene. So I wanted to start with that, knowing that the feelings are still very strong, and we're all very sad today. But we're going to try to lift your spirits here with a little baseball. Now, I had last week a great guest. I had Jon Hamm, the Golden Globe winning actor, the St. Louis native. And if you remember at the end, I said, coming up next week, I have a great guest. I'm not going to announce it yet, but I got a really good one. He goes, easy, better than me. I could only come up with one that might get the attention of a Jon Hamm, especially with his team about to embark on a regular season 1 week from today. Please welcome the Cardinals president of baseball operations, John Mozeliak, is on the Garage Happy Hour, coming to us live from the ballpark of the Palm Beaches, where the Cardinals are taking on the Astros. How you doing, Mo?
I'm well. I don't think Jon Hamm has anything to worry about with me following him. So I think it's an honor for me, though. So thank you.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you. It's great to have you. You joked, I think you joked on Sunday morning that I hadn't called you for a year to be on this show. Was that the case?
I wasn't joking. I was just pointing out a fact that, yeah.
I might have lost transmission. Uh-oh. Look at that. We already started the Garage Happy Hour and we lost transmission. Do you have me?
I don't have you, but I see myself speaking.
We've already... Now, how are we? Better?
You are not well.
Oh, no. All right. Well, look at this. The Garage Happy Hour has taken a side turn. This happens from time to time. So, look, I probably will, here I am. Sam Masterson, our producer, is going to bounce us in and out, and now we'll see how we're doing. How are we doing now?
Better.
Good. You look great.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm here. I'm clear. You're there. You're clear. Okay, we're good. All right. So, and by the way, not the first time we've had a technical issue on the Garage Happy Hour. It's part of the charm of the show. I'm sitting in my garage. It's raining. That might be it. It's like storming here. Or not storming, but pouring down rain all around me. Perhaps just a brief drop in the signal. 55 degrees and rainy here in St. Louis. As I was saying, Jon Hamm, great guest, said, easy now. Who could be as good as me, having some fun with John Mozeliak, who it did take a little while for me to get you on the show, but you've been busy. I mean, what am I going to do?
Ask.
Well, I did, and on the first ask, you said yes. So what are you seeing right now? You got your ball club is out there, down 2-0 to the Astros. What is your setup there like? Looks like you're in a private box there at the ballpark.
I'm in the press box, which obviously there's not a lot of media down here right now. And so they gave me my own little space here, which is nice, but it's all like sort of plexiglass and you can sort of see out, but it's different. And, this camp has been different in regards to you don't have the same interaction with people as you'll be the first to tell that, you used to come down for a majority of the camp. You'd have interaction with players, staff, and front office. And, those things just haven't happened this year. And it's been nice in the sense for us that we can sort of move around with a lot more freedom, but you also miss the camaraderie and catching up with people and seeing people. So, it's not ideal, I do look forward to next year when we do have some normalcy. And even when we get back to St. Louis, it appears we're going to get closer to that as well. So, fingers crossed that, as we move deeper into the summer, we can get back to what we normally expect when we're at the ballpark.
Yeah, certainly looking forward to that, and looking forward to seeing people again. The people inside the ballpark. You guys all feel it, don't you? I know those players do. It makes a difference to have people and vendors and shouting and things going on inside that park.
Yeah, it's so strange. Like even now with 1,000 fans at the ballpark, it feels very much like you're at almost like a Florida State League game. From time to time you hear the cheers, which is great, right? Because relative to last year, it was all piped in. It was just bizarre. But look, I think when you get back to St. Louis and you have 14,000, that's going to sound a little different, even though it's in a bigger environment. That's going to be great to see.
Yeah, it is. Going to be some great people. They have, they sure had smiles on their faces when you delivered the trade leading into this spring training for Nolan Arenado. I know that he's playing in this game right now, and I want to get to him in just a moment. Daniel Ponce de Leon and Nolan Arenado were back-to-back guests on this show, the Garage Happy Hour, just a few weeks ago. Ponce is pitching today. How does he look right now?
Well, he had to come out of the first inning because his pitch count was high. That's the one concern with Ponce. When he's on, he can be efficient and he can get a lot of strikeouts. But when he's not, you'll find his pitch count rise too quickly. Now, again, we're in spring training, so you can pull a pitcher and then have them re-enter. But, a week from now, we're not going to be having that luxury. So, I think what you hope for out of someone like Ponce is just consistency, so you know what you can expect. And so fastball command is really what sort of drives his success, and that's what he pitches off of. He'll show a breaking ball from time to time, but for him to go deep into the game, that means he's controlling his fastball.
KK is going to throw this weekend, and I know that that's a big thing for you. Now, some people may watch this after the fact, so I won't get too timely on the news, but I know that this rotation, if KK is in it, it looks pretty good. Jack Flaherty is healthy. That's important. Adam Wainwright has been really something. This guy is the bionic man. I don't even know what to say sometimes. You see him, he was arguably your best pitcher last year, and he's darn near done it again.
Yeah, he's had a great camp. There's no doubt about it. And then you throw Carlos in, who I think is trending in the right direction. We're excited about that. John Gantz had a nice camp, and until Miles gets back, he's probably going to carry the burden of that. But overall, yeah, I think our rotation has some depth, and I think like in Ponce's case, if he can control the fastball, he can be successful in this league.
And touching on some other decisions that are to be made, the outfield, Harrison Bader unfortunately has an injury. It's going to leave him out for a while. And you have an outfield today of O'Neill in left, Thomas in center, and Williams in right. Justin's starting to trend up here a little bit towards the end of the Grapefruit League. But you also have a really good one in Dylan Carlson. Certainly your outfield situation seems to be in pretty good shape. How would you look at it?
Certainly losing Bader hurts us because it would be nice to know if we could, count on that type of defense. But we don't really lose too much in that regard because I think Dylan can go out and cover ground. I am sort of excited to see what Williams is capable of doing. And, of course, O'Neill's a Gold Glover in left. So, net, I think we should get through this. And the one nice thing about Williams, you get left-handed pop. So, I think it'll be fun to watch. But, certainly wish Bader hadn't gotten hurt in the last week of spring training, which is always sort of when you sit in my seat, that's all you really even sort of look at this time of year. It's like, okay, can we just get to where we need to go healthy? And unfortunately, we had a few bumps in the road. Then, losing him for 4 to 6 weeks was not great.
It's always kind of fun to see guys make one run at it in the last week or so. Really, though, throughout spring training, John Nagowski has been knocking the ball around pretty good. And I don't want to leave anybody out. Jose Rondon's got a nice bat. You have some nice ones trying to see if they can get one last look.
Well, these guys have all had really good camps, starting with Nagowski. Look, we know he can hit. He's always hit. Very few people have higher walk rate than strikeout rate. I mean, that's just an oddity. But, he's a guy that hits to all fields, and even in camp, he's shown some power to left, which is definitely exciting. But, overall, I really feel like our guys did a good job of recognizing who we needed. I think you mentioned Rendon. He's had a really nice camp, swung the bat well, defensively gives you some flexibility. And then even Max Baroff has had a good camp. So unfortunately, we're going to have some really tough decisions to make as we get down to the wire. But as I always try to remind people, it's not what you look like on April 1. It's what you look like on August 1. And, you have plenty of time to change over your roster throughout those 4 months. And, the most important thing is not to lose someone that has some talent because of waivers or out of options. So we just want to be smart about that as we think about what we're going to look like next Thursday.
And as Mike Shannon has often said, you know what you do with spring training stats? You wad them up and you throw them in the trash when you leave. And, we see some of that going on, the guys trying to get their timing down and all that stuff. By the way, can I get a comment on Mike Shannon from you? I mean, here is this legendary figure, 50 years in the broadcast booth alone. And then on top of that, his enormous career as a player and a world champion. What an amazing ambassador he is for your organization.
Yeah. When I think of Mike, I've known him for a long time, and, I feel like I'm one of the lucky ones because I've known him for such a long time. I knew him at sort of different stages in his career and where he was in life. And, he was always someone that just brought tremendous energy to his job, to the booth. And, he was funny because he could see through some things, and, he had that high player IQ, and, it's exciting to know that we get him for another year. It's exciting to know that he's going out on his terms. And that's something that few people in this game can say they can do. And he has a lot to be proud of, and the Cardinals are extremely grateful for all he's done for this organization.
We have a lot of great things planned this year, as you can imagine, on the radio side to honor him. And I know the Cardinals do as well throughout. You're going to see some amazing tributes to Mike Shannon this year in 2021. And on that note, he's always a fixture on opening day. What does that ceremony mean to you? And this year, I know that I'm getting word that they're going to put something together for the crowd of 14,500 or 15,000, whatever you can get in there. This one will be a little extra special. Also have a touch of sadness because we've lost some legendary figures, Mo. But at the same time, to have people watching something like that has been a fixture in St. Louis sports for many years.
Well, I think that's what makes the Cardinals so special, is the recognition of their past. And, not every organization has such a glorious past as we do. And, when you mention the loss of Gibby, Brock, it's tough because, those guys were selfless. They would always come out. They'd always make time for the Cardinals. And yeah, as I think about that, it's that part's rough because it was such a special moment every year that it almost was like that's when you knew the season was starting. And I hope we can have some form of that as we try to replicate it. But I think all Cardinal fans will tell you that's why we have such a special organization.
I know it. And, the Blues, I know, are hurting right now, and so are all of us. I mean, this is a legendary figure that was taken from us yesterday in Bob Plager, and I talked about it at the start. You've gotten to know him through the years, and in fact, we were all in attendance together at the Missouri Athletic Club, and he received the Legends Award. And the MAC just announced this morning that they are renaming that the Bob Plager Legends Award to remember the great Bob Plager. What a guy! I mean, I've never met really a better person in sports, to be honest. I don't think I ever saw him upset. He was just happy.
Yeah, prince of a man. He was so genuine, right? Like he there was nothing fake about him. He really loved interacting with people. And, obviously he had a great love for the game of hockey, for the Blues, how they treated him. He felt like that was his home. And, spending time with him at those chicken dinners from time to time, I mean, you just couldn't help but just start laughing. Truly, as you said, just a genuinely nice person. And a lot of ways, it kind of always reminded me of Red. It'd have some sort of sage thing to say, but yet then have something that would just make you just want to knee buckle laugh. And I'm sorry for the loss for his family, for the Blues, and really for the city of St. Louis, because he was a true ambassador to the game of hockey for all of us.
Yeah, very well said. John Mozeliak joining us live from West Palm Beach during the Cardinals-Astros game, and we appreciate this very much. I would say that you have this is, really means a lot that you're doing this during a game. What I know you got to pay attention to the team here, but what are you looking for on a day like this, late in spring training?
Well, let's start with, what do you owe me for this? And first off, you say, hey, let's do this little happy hour thing. I'm like, great. Then I text you and say, we have a night game that night. Yeah, okay. And so you're enjoying a beer, I think, right?
I am a cold frosty Budweiser.
Right, yes. And I'm sipping a bottle of water that I took from the clubhouse. Yeah, so perhaps a nice bourbon will make up for this. But
I can do that. I was gonna say red wine, but a bourbon works.
I'll save you the pain on the wine. So what do I look for at this point? The main focus right now is getting out of this camp healthy, right? That's the most important. There's a handful of still roster spots that are being competing for, but reality is it's not the obvious that breaks those ties. It's not like if some guy goes out and hits 4 home runs and the other person strikes out 10 times and, we've got the tiebreaker. One might be out of options. One might require being put on the roster. There's a lot of sort of technical reasons why we put our roster the way we do. And when you think about April 1 and use that as sort of a generic always opening day, but happens to be our real one this year. But the fact is what you want to do when you think about your 26-man roster is create as much flexibility as possible, because whether it's the first week, second week, first month, something's going to happen, and you're going to have to be able to make some moves where you don't have your hands tied.
And then,
one other thing, what complicates this a little bit more is we don't have a minor league season beginning. And so, we will have that alternative camp over in Illinois, which is great, but they're not really game ready, right? We can try to replicate that as best we can, but it's still not ideal. So creating that flexibility internally as much as possible is really what's driving sort of our final answers.
Has it always been, every year is different, but it has always been the Cardinals' philosophy to be that way, to be as flexible as possible, to make sure that we are a team, because, you've had one losing season since, in the last, 15 years. Are you always trying to, how can we be as competitive as possible? And then if we have to make the move to put us over the top, we do that.
So a couple of things. One is I think every type of decision we're trying to make in the next, say, 6 days, none of those are going to transform this team. These are not like step function moves. These are just subtle on the margin type moves. I think back to the year we were debating whether we should take Albert Pujols. Now that's a step function move. Here was a guy that was, had an amazing 1 year at the minor leagues, came into our major league camp, and, he earned a spot. And whereas this year, what I'm talking about are much more subtle moves. And so when you ask, how's that philosophy happened over time? If you were to ask a manager, he's going to want his 25 or 26 best men now. He doesn't care about waivers. He doesn't care about outrights. He doesn't none of that matters. But, ultimately that's my responsibility to make sure that we're not losing talent just to make a short-term decision. And so when you ask like how that's been our philosophy, it is something that I've learned over the years, and now I'm in a position where we can hold true to that. And so ultimately that's how we do things.
I think that's probably why you developed such a close relationship with your managers. You were very close with Mike Matheny. You guys golfed together and spent time talking about things together. Tony La Russa and you had a lot of respect for each other. They're all different guys, you know. Mike Schilt, really a baseball lifer in this organization. You had a gut feeling about him as a manager, and the two of you know each other well. But that probably also gives him a little bit of freedom to say, hey, look, this is what I need, and it becomes a healthy conversation.
It can be, but again, like I don't look at the world in the short view, and I can't. And so a lot of times people in uniform don't want to hear my opinion, but sometimes you have to have that conversation because, ultimately, as I've always told people, seasons are long, careers are short. Right. And so during a long season, the more flexibility and the more resources that you retain because you make certain decisions early in the season will benefit you long term.
How long did you have to hold inside the fact that you wanted Nolan Arenado and you knew it was going to be long? I mean, didn't you? It was going to be complicated. It was not going to be an easy thing. Can you pinpoint? I mean, are you able to tell us how long ago that was?
It was a classic negotiation that evolved over time, but probably first true conversation of this particular deal would have been sometime in November. Didn't really go anywhere. And then it was the Saturday before Christmas. I remember having a conversation with the Rockies and getting a lot more specific. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however the story should go, my son was sitting by me. And, I never said specific names or anything, but he's like, what's that about? I'm like, just talking with another team. And because he's a huge fan, right?
Yeah.
And then he's like, that's Nolan Arenado, isn't it? I'm like, might be. And I'm like, let me tell you something, kid. What you just heard, you didn't hear. And, what might happen, who knows? But now back up to Thanksgiving now. And my son and his buddy, I picked him up. My son just got his license, but he needed a ride, so I drove over, picked up his friend, and they were going to go out and hit or something. And the kid shows up in an Arenado jersey, and he's sitting in the backseat of the car. Now that I think about it, I was like I was the chauffeur. But they're sitting in the backseat and they're kind of snickering and giggling, and I'm like, "What are you guys doing?" And he goes, what do you think about, my son's like, what do you think about the jersey? I go, it's a nice jersey. Great player. I go, there's 50 million reasons why this probably will never happen. And ironically, that kind of was the number, right?
That turned out to be the number.
So anyway, I would say at Christmas was when, details were starting to move. And then throughout the month of January, this is a complicated deal, right? There's a lot of things in this thing that are just not normal. But I would say the time I was starting to get nauseous was that sort of final week of January where I just, didn't know if it could go either way. And when you're that vested in something, you want to just get it done. And, luckily for us, we were able to dot I's and cross T's. And, I think we announced it on February 1, which was about 3 days after I think it initially broke. So I was radio silent, literally. You probably asked me to do your show on that Sunday. I probably
politely declined.
Graciously declined, right? I said no, but it was great though. I mean, the one thing about the Cardinal franchise is, we want it to be respectable. We want it to be a team people talk about, and I accept that. Even though we did the Goldschmidt deal a couple of years ago, I do feel like our fan base was wondering, are we getting a little too almost too casual with it. And so as we were looking at ways to make an impact deal, Nolan was certainly someone that we had put on our radar and made it a point of focus. And fortunately for us, we were able to get it done, because had we not, I definitely feel our fan base would have had a little bit more angst going into this year.
Well, and there was a lot of that going on, but I feel like I know you, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I think that you do a good job of it to yourself internally of blocking that stuff out, whether it's something written or said or fans are grumbling or whatnot. You got a job to do, and so you were kind of dropping some hints on my show, just that there was something going on. I didn't know it was Arenado, but you said, we have some things that we're working on, kind of thing. So, when people were saying that this franchise is satisfied with just coasting into the NL Central, it's like, I don't think so. I think that as you just said, this fan base is so big, and yeah, they gripe and they get angry sometimes, but they're passionate. And I kind of think in a way you like that. Like you don't like negativity necessarily, but you like passion, and it's better than the alternative.
Oh, absolutely. And when you talk about things that are written about or said about, it's one thing when it's sort of generalized comments where they just wish we would do more. It's totally another thing when it becomes personal. But the fact is, it's like, if you're going to sit in this seat, you're going to hear it no matter what you do. I mean, we won a World Series in 11. People still complained. We went to the World Series in 13. That wasn't enough. And so the reality is, trying to keep everyone happy, very difficult task. But, understanding the importance of keeping this franchise in the elite category of baseball is certainly a focus we can do and hopefully achieve.
Yeah, and I know it's an ongoing process for sure, that something that you continue to do. Did you ever think that when you were asked by the Rockies to work in their clubhouse and throw batting practice, that this would be the journey for you? Did you have this in your sights?
No, I did not. Back when I was getting involved in baseball, the people that were running teams for the most part had a baseball pedigree or background. And, my luck or good fortune was I had a background in computers. The timing of what was happening in the game of baseball that evolution was just beginning. And so, like, when I think back to those days, and if we had been doing just a offline chat somewhere and you said, "You think you'll ever be a general manager?" I'd say never. I mean, that's honestly how I thought about it. And I didn't start thinking I would become a potential general manager until probably around 2000, because I'd oversaw the 99 and 2000 drafts for the Cardinals. And all of a sudden people started talking about you, and all of a sudden I went on a radar from never being on one. And
yeah.
So, but honestly, it's been a dream come true to be with one franchise this long and to be a part of a franchise that's so appreciated. As you were sort of pointing out earlier, yes, they're passionate, but they truly care about this team, and that's what makes it special, because there's only a handful of clubs that can actually say that.
That's right, and the Cardinals are respected around baseball for that. I mean, it's very competitive, isn't it? I mean, only one team walks away as a champion, and the others have to go back to the drawing board. But while you are about winning, I know that for a fact. You also know that this is a business that just continues year after year after year after year, and it is, I think, in a lot of ways, it can be a grind. Like, how do you and when do you take a little step back? Can you?
Yeah, this industry never found the right balance. Like, I think other sports do a better job of like having a month or so that is just downtime, but the baseball calendar never stops. I mean, like, free agency usually opens up 7 days after World Series. Usually GM meetings are 14 days after World Series. Usually winter meetings are 5 weeks after World Series. So it's like, when do you actually breathe? And it's such a relentless business anymore. Like you just really don't. I've tried to find balance, like, stealing an hour or two here or there kind of thing, but it's hard. And that's why I don't envision myself doing this when I'm 70. Like, it's just so demanding. At some point, you're just like, wave the white flag and, let someone else walk in those shoes. But, I'm not going to complain though, because, I know what I signed up for. And at this point, I still like the adrenaline. I still like the demands. And, I still find it fun.
Yeah, it is fun. It's a dream job for a lot of people to be involved in sports and to be involved with the St. Louis Cardinals. And I think that
I would imagine a lot of people would love my job.
I was just about to say, I think that a lot of people sometimes think that they are, but it has it's something that you always can take a step back and look at what you've accomplished. I know that's not easy to do. I remember talking to you after 11, and it was like you had to go right into the Pujols discussions. You had a manager that was retiring. I mean, to your point, it's always kind of moving along.
It's fleeting. Like, success is fleeting. It's a moment. It's amazing memory. Don't get me wrong. And great accomplishment, and something that, like, everybody involved in that will never forget. And when you sit in this seat, it's probably even more special. But the fact is, it's the train keeps moving, and you're either on it or you're going to have to play catch up, and that's what has to drive you every day.
Yeah. And I just had a brief. Did we lose? Is it raining too hard around here? Did we lose contact? Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you great.
All right. So last thing. This has been a very challenging year for all of us in life. It kind of leads into my last thing, which is, I think it doesn't matter what your position is or who you are. You have spent a lot of time in thought this last year. There's no other way around it, no matter where you are. And for you, just how's that been to guide a team through something we've never seen before, a global pandemic, and for that matter, also balancing family life at the same time?
Well, I think you touched on it or stated it, was that it's been a challenge for everybody. So regardless of what you're doing in life, the last 12 months have been something that I don't think any of us anticipated, prepared for, and, candidly knew exactly how to handle it. Goldie just made a great play. Sorry.
Oh, did
he? Yeah.
What did he do?
Diving play, but saved a run, got out of the inning, so it's good.
All of it.
I'm not supposed to broadcast that, though, right?
No, that's fine. It's after the fact. You're not doing play-by-play.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, we're good.
They don't pay me enough for that anymore. But as I think back to just not only what I experienced on a personal level in these past 12 months, but what I've seen other people go through, I know that people want to see change and want to get back to normalcy. And on a personal note, this week was even like doubly tragic for me, because if anybody was paying attention to that shooting out in Colorado, that was my childhood grocery store. That's where I grew up. And, to see that happen, and it sort of triggers like these thoughts, and it's been tough. And so when you compound that with the pandemic and loss of some really key people in our own lives this year, as you mentioned, our Hall of Famers, now Bobby, and then compounded on what happened out in Boulder, it's been a year where it's almost like mercy, like enough's enough, and like I'm ready to turn the page. I really am. And in some ways, baseball was like a little escape for me, because working on that trade or staying in touch with Waino and Yachty every week to see where they were at, it was in a lot of ways like like just a genuinely healthy distraction. And the biggest challenge for me during this whole thing was really just more of the like additional admin. And what I mean by that is think back to when you used to come down the clubhouse, or think back like when you'd see the club on the road. You had this sort of normal expectation of where you could go, what you could do. Mm-hmm. And then last year when we were going through this pandemic, especially under the protocols that were in place, you're taking, 30 baseball players and telling them they can't do that anymore. They're rolling their eyes. You're telling a manager he can't have face-to-face meetings anymore. He's rolling his eyes. It was more of just getting people to sort of fall in line so we could just get through it. It was like the biggest challenge. And so as we look to 2021, I hope and pray that we're going to put some of this behind us, and we, like by midsummer, we're smiling and we're enjoying baseball like we truly remember it. But in the short term, we're going to get a taste of it, and we're going to get to experience some of it. But, think about your own kids, right? Like just virtual school, or that's just what they went through. So, nobody was unaffected by this, and I'm not articulating it well enough, but it is, I think we all are hopeful and can't wait till we can get back to what we used to think is normal.
That's very well said. No, I think so. And we're going to get there. And it really is a daily process, almost an hour by hour process to find a way to do that. And, that's partly why we developed this little forum, so we could chat with people and give people a distraction for 37 minutes, which is where we
it took you a year to call me, but right. I will forget that someday.
I know you will. John Mozeliak.
Just not soon.
No, I hear you. I know. I'm going to get it. I miss being down there, but, it won't be long. These years go by so quick. We'll be back there next year, and you'll be back in St. Louis, and off we go for 2021. Really appreciate this, Mo. Thank you for doing this, and enjoy the rest of the game. I don't think anything has happened at the scoreboard. It's still 2-0.
Scoreboard is still 2-0. We have not received our first hit, so hopefully we can do something like that and be exciting. But what do we have? One more night game, 2 more day games, and then Monday night we end up in Cincinnati. So gosh, it did go quick. I got to admit that. Like it's hard to believe that the packing process has begun. I think Walshy told me the truck gets here tomorrow, which is always like that, as you know, the sign of heading north. So but the vibe here is good. I think Nolan has fit in really well with his teammates, well respected, and I think these guys are working on lots of things, but I do think they're sort of itching to get it to where it starts to count.
Well, we can't wait to see it. It's going to be great for everybody. It really is a feeling of normalcy when we get back to baseball, that's for sure. And thank you for doing the Garage Happy Hour and spending some time with us. Really, really appreciate it.
You bet, Tommy. I'd say any time, but maybe next year.
Oh, thank you. We're sponsored by Bommarito Automotive Group and by Well First Health, which wants to remind you that they not only are the new sponsor, but you may have heard Ozzie Smith and I discussing the Well First Medicare Advantage plans that you can see for yourself by clicking the link that you see right here, wellfirsthealth.com/medicare/legacy-group. Just check it out. You'll be connected to an independent insurance broker who can answer any questions you may have. Well First Health by SSM Health Plan. We're also sponsored by Bommarito Automotive Group, and we're going to hear from them. Thanks to John Mozeliak. He was fun. He did a great job. Have Sam Masterson behind the scenes as our digital content coordinator. We will be back next week, so we're going to follow opening day in Cincinnati with a special show. I'll have an announcement of who our guest will be. I think you're really going to like her. She's really great. That's going to be on the way on April 1st. Do not miss it. But we are going to take Garage Happy Hour off on April 8th. You know what that is. Oh, yeah. I'm pretty sure we're going to take it off. If we don't, I'll let you know for the home opener at Busch Stadium. Thank you for joining us. Now a word from Bommarito Automotive Group.
At Bommarito, shop thousands of new vehicles. Get more for your trade. The Bommarito nationwide warranty, 10 years, 200,000 miles, and the best service after the sale. Bommarito, Missouri's #1 automotive group, open 24/7 at Bommarito.com.